Hello, my name is Novickis, and this is my reflective Slidecast. Throughout my writing career in life, I always found myself to take a long time in essays, usually just because I think my essay or project is bad or not good enough until I would spend more time on it. I eventually would get it done, and then I would never look at it again until I would get a grade on it. Most times I'd be pleased with it. I rarely ever did drafts, however, or anything of the sorts, usually just because the teachers in my school did not actually care about looking at my improvements throughout the writing project. However, this year opened my eyes to the benefits of editing and taking in feedback from both colleagues or professors. I have learned that editing is a great way to make an essay so much better, even though it is an extremely difficult process. In going through the various writing projects and activities we have throughout the semester, I learned a lot about my strengths, or where I excel in my writing, and where I could use some improvements in. I feel like I always knew my strengths for writing pretty well. I feel like one of them that is pretty well known to me is my ability to explain all my points very in-depth to any essay I write. All the points I would use would have a clear purpose for existing because they were needed. I would say that they would be keystones in my papers, if you will, pretty much, because they were just so needed in my paper. This could be seen in my argumentative essay, in which I feel like I had a very strong introduction. In the introduction, I thoroughly describe what carrying capacity is and give an example that is very relevant to what I'm talking about. And I really believe that this introduction is strong because it catches the reader's attention also in doing so. I feel like I also show the strength of my writing in my informative writing piece, in which I talk about Lake Erie and how the algae blooms are currently detrimental to it. I describe in depth how the algae are so dangerous to Lake Erie's health and how the algae is able to grow in such rapid numbers. Because of this in-depth writing that I do, which I consider a strength, it usually leads to why I have essays of much longer length than usual, meaning that I write more than what is expected pretty much for every essay that I have to write. I look at this as a plus for me, since what I write, in my opinion, is quality and necessary to show my arguments or points in my writing. This could be shown in my argumentative essay once again, because there are 12 pages and the required was 8 to 10, and this is quite a hefty amount of writing for me. Another strength I would consider to be shown in my writing is that the fact I am able to draw from so many different sources in my essays. This is a strength because I cross-reference my facts and information in my essay to make sure that they are accurate and correct. This also improves the quality and quantity of information that I provide in my essays. In addition, I always make sure that the information that I bring in is relevant to my essays, so that I'm not talking about stuff I don't need to. I feel like the sources that I'm able to find actually also supply pictures, which I also believe or find to be one of my strengths in writing. I believe this because I think they really help show the readers how certain things work, or how I, the writer, feels about this topic in general. This can be shown in any of my essays, but I would say that it probably would be the most effective in my informative essay, because I feel like the pictures in this are very necessary to show the processes and how bad this really actually is to society. Even though I feel like I know I have many strengths in my writing, there are of course many major flaws. One weak point in my writing would be my syntax, mainly dealing with repetition, but also transitions between sentences and paragraphs. I would say that this would be most obviously shown in my first reflective writing project, in which there are many examples. As you can see in the scribbles, there are many words circled. These are the words dealing with my use of the same word in close proximity of one another, like the word during or see in the intro. It is also shown here in the essay, as well with the word or verb join. Here's another example in which repetition was used in my essay, in which the word run is used many times. In addition, I do it again with the word here. Pretty much I did not realize I was doing this, and wished I would have noticed I was using the same word in close proximity of one another, since it really took away from the strength of my essays. Another flaw that is very obvious to me would be my conclusion strength. In my conclusions, in my first drafts, they would usually always just repeat the main points, but never elaborate more after that. This is shown a lot in my informative essay. This simple conclusion is also seen in my argumentative essay, in which I do not go past just the main points. I just state previously what I have said in my essay. I believe that peer and professor feedback was an extremely crucial step to writing this semester. It is actually the reason that I'm able to understand my faults in writing. Even though I do not always agree with the criticism I receive, I am able to take the views in which I could see why it would be better while discarding of the suggestions I believe would not benefit my essay in any way. I just want to state that any revision I did was based off the response of someone else that gave me advice or feedback to any of my essays. I just want to state how hard revising an essay actually is that I found, because it sometimes felt like I was mass terraforming an essay, which to me was kind of ridiculous since I've never really edited this much before. In my revisions, I of course always focused on my weaknesses in my writings, which would be my sentence structure and staying away from repetition. I also really focused on making my conclusions much more powerful, which can be shown in both my argumentative essay and my informal essay. However, my argumentative essay piece, in my opinion, is a much stronger example of how I improve my conclusion writing skills. This is because I mention future problems and how as a whole we could start improving the issues now. Overall, I believe that the newer conclusions pack a lot more of a punch than before. I also want to mention that I improved in my revisions my audience in which I was writing to. In my old drafts, I barely had any words or phrases that hinted to who the writing was directed to. Now in my revised drafts or finals, they are much more apparent. This is shown in my argumentative essay, in which I talk about the common person is usually clueless or does not care about the issue I am talking about. This is just another example of how I selected a certain audience in my writing, in my argumentative piece. I would say that even though I did not revise my reflection essay at all, just because I did not get the time to or was not required, I would go back and replace many of the words in which repetition was used and make the transitions between sentences and paragraphs a lot more smooth. Pretty much I want to improve on all my weaknesses as a writer, of course, which include my syntax and my conclusion strength. Overall, I would say that during the semester I understand that revising and editing is actually a really crucial part in the whole essay making process to make the best possible essay. 101 showed me this, and I'm pretty happy that I was forced to take it. This is the end of my Slidecast, and I hope you found it bearable.